Last Faves video, I had 2 answers. This Faves video, a lot more. It's a Christmas miracle. Hey guys, what's going on? Happy Christmas, or whatever holidays you're celebrating right now. Hope you're having a great time with your friends and family. Yes, today is the Christmas edition of Faves. I've asked you guys, what are your favorite Christmas films and why? Like I said in the intro, I'm getting a lot more answers than I did in my last Faves video. And I can't be more thankful, guys. Thank you so much. Right now I'm feeling really festive. I've got my Christmas jumper on and I'm looking forward to reading your answers, guys. So before I go through your answers, I'm going to be talking about my favorite Christmas films. I'm also going to be talking about Christmas films that I've seen recently, as well as Christmas films that I really want to see. So let's start with the favorites. So I'm going to start with 2 favorite Christmas films. One of them has to be Arthur Christmas. That film is fantastic. It is absolute genius. I think it's one of Aardman's best, and it's probably one of the greatest Christmas films out there because it has a really great combination of the theme of family, but also technology moving forward. You have Arthur, who is the son of Santa, who is trying to play a part in the process of Christmas gift giving. There's a rivalry between him and his brother, who wants to be a leader at the Christmas giving process. And also you have Santa Claus, who is worrying about him being obsolete because of technology moving forward and that everyone doesn't need him anymore. You have the elves and the way that they operate. The elves are absolutely fantastic in this film. It's such a genius film and it's very heartwarming, and Arthur is so likable. It's a fantastic film and it's a very genius film. So the next film that I'm going to talk about, so it's an anime Christmas film, but recently it was advertised with an English dub in February 2020, and it released on Blu-ray with an English dub. And I was actually surprised that this film got an English dub because I watched the one with the English sub. I was surprised that now this film gets an English sub. That film is Tokyo Godfathers by Satoshi Kon. This film is amazing. It's probably one of Satoshi Kon's best and probably underrated. It's about 3 homeless people who find an abandoned baby, and they of course nurse it, and they try to protect it and make sure that it's safe and try to find its parents. This film is very coincidental. It has a lot of coincidental elements in the plot and the story, but that's because the film is trying to be like a Christmas miracle sort of film, and you have to buy into it because it is heartwarming. When the film explores the 3 homeless people about why they're homeless, the relationship with their family, what caused them to leave their homes, it's absolutely tragic, but the characters are really likable, very lively, and yeah, it's a fantastic film. And for those of you who like anime and like Christmas films, I definitely recommend you go see Tokyo Godfathers. For those of you who don't like reading subtitles while watching films, the good news is you can watch the film, listen to the dub, and enjoy the story for what it's worth. Those are 2 of my favorite Christmas films. I definitely recommend you go see them. There's tons of Christmas films that I love, but I don't want to get into them. So now we're going to be moving on to the Christmas films I've recently seen. So I've seen It's a Wonderful Life, directed by Frank Capra, starring Jimmy Stewart. Now, this film is a classic for a reason. It's a wonderful film. I'm familiar with the story. I'm pretty sure that if you haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life, you're pretty much familiar with the story because you've heard that story before. Everyone has. The story of a suicidal businessman who wishes that he was never born. And he comes across an angel, and then he shows him what it would be like if he was never born. And it teaches you the story about be thankful for what you have and be thankful and happy of where you are at the moment. And that's a really nice and touching story. But when I watched the film, it contained elements in the plot that I did not expect. So I definitely recommend you go check out It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, like, if you're a fan of Jimmy Stewart, because he's fantastic in Vertigo as well. He has range, Jimmy Stewart. He has fantastic range. But Jimmy Stewart, I can watch him act for hours on end. He is extremely likable, and he makes me love George Bailey. You really love George Bailey on screen, and you really want him to succeed and just be happy, you know, because he's such a wonderful guy, such a lovely protagonist. Having said that, the film is very long. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. So be warned if you want to watch that film. But yeah, It's a Wonderful Life. It's a classic for a reason, guys. It's a wonderful film. Second Christmas film that I've seen recently was The Princess Switch 2, starring Vanessa Hudgens. I promise, guys, my sister wanted to see it, and I thought, yeah, why not? So we just popped it on, and yeah, we laughed about how ridiculous it is. And it's we could tell that the cast was having a great time, and they knew what sort of film that they were making. They knew what sort of audience they were going for. And Vanessa Hudgens didn't just star as the 2 princesses. I mean 3, because it's a 3rd lookalike in that film. I haven't seen the first one, and I don't think I want to. But she produced it as well, so you can tell that she's having a lot of fun. She's having the time of her life in these films. So yeah, and we laughed about how ridiculous it was and how how cheesy it was, because it was 100% cheesy. But it is not a great film. Yeah, it's not good in terms of writing and plot. Characters are acting way too. The characters' reactions are way too okay than they should be with what they're doing. But it's a fine film, you know. We had a great time watching it, so yeah. And the Christmas film that I really want to see, and I'm probably looking forward to seeing it. I'm probably going to watch it tonight or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. Klaus. I mentioned it in my Over the Moon review. It's Netflix's first animation-produced film, and the animation looks completely stunning. It's fantastic, and I haven't seen it, believe it or not. Yeah, I was gonna watch it last year, but I missed the opportunity, sadly, and I thought, like, should I watch it in March, February? Nah, I'm gonna wait till next Christmas. Maybe do a review. Really looking forward to seeing Klaus and seeing the beautiful, glorious 2D animation. So guys, thank you so much for your answers. I got way more than I was expected. This is gonna be from Instagram. So the first one comes from Zara Neshat. So she wrote The Snowman, so short, sweet and simple, and any of the Jack Canary films on CBBC. The Jack Canary films, I'm guessing it's celebrities or people just reading storybooks for CBBC or CBBS, I think. I'm not sure, probably not. Yeah, The Snowman I am familiar with. But yeah, that was a very nice and tranquil film. I remember that sequence where the boy and the snowman are floating in the sky, and you hear Alex Jones singing, "We're walking in the air." We're walking in the air. Sorry about that. Weird. That was weird. It was a song that I had to sing when I was in a school choir. But yeah, it's a nice and tranquil short. And for those of you who are a fan of Raymond Briggs, I definitely recommend you go check out Ethel and Ernest. I saw that at the BFI in 2017, I think. That was the same year where I saw Mavi the Courgette. I saw Ethel and Ernest, and that film is about Raymond Briggs's mother and father and their relationship when they were young, how they met, their lives together, and how they were surviving World War II, and how they raised Raymond Briggs from childhood to adulthood. It's a beautiful film. Yeah, so yeah, I definitely recommend Ethel and Ernest. This next one comes from Hot Takes for Nerds, and he said, the Grinch cartoon and live action. Live action for Jim Carrey humor, but cartoon because profoundless. My guess is that you're saying that the cartoon is profoundless, yeah. The Chuck Jones one, yeah, you're talking about the Chuck Jones cartoon, aren't you? Because that's the original one. So I have to say, that is a pretty unpopular opinion, Hot Takes, because people who usually go for the Chuck Jones cartoon usually go against the Jim Carrey film. Maybe it's because of the way that they encapsulated the town of Who's, or the Whoville. The way that they encaptured Whoville is very dark and murky and uncomfortable to look at, especially when you look at the Who's. But you can't deny Jim Carrey's performance is fantastic and spectacular. The way that he moves and the way that he's very agile in that heavy, heavy fursuit. Did you know that Jim Carrey was trained by the CIA to play the Grinch? I mean, it requires so much energy to play that sort of character, you know, and it's very impressive the way that he can contort his face to make it look like the Grinch. I don't think anybody else can do that, really. But I would have to say that the Chuck Jones one, people sort of like it for the innocence of it and the way that it is, it's sort of a very innocent source material that copies truly to the story of the Grinch and how he stole Christmas. But I feel like the Grinch, the Jim Carrey one, is memorable for the hilarious quote. Yeah, for example, the Grinch choosing not to go, picking an outfit, looking at a book and saying hate, 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 loathe entirely. Those are hilarious quotes, and yeah, those are really memorable. So yeah, fantastic Jim Carrey humor. I'm all for it. And last for the Instagram one is my sis. Hey sis, if you're watching this. She says Home Alone, a classic. Now, funny story. Little did she mention that the first Home Alone film that we saw was Home Alone 4. It wasn't Home Alone 1. And I guess people tend to slag off the rest of the Home Alone films. We watched it when we were very little, and we enjoyed it at the time. So Home Alone 4 was when the kid was in a mansion. I remember that he was playing with a dumbnavator. It's one of those elevators that are really small. It's like in a small pantry, and it's like going down, and you're like really hunched forward. And when the robbers come in, he sort of gets a remote and he says what the mansion wants it to do, and it does that. Compared to the first Home Alone film, where you have a kid that puts his carpentry skills so that he can make traps. and subdue the burglars. You got a kid who just gets a remote and just makes the house do it for him. And I can see why. I can see why people slag it off. Yeah. But after that, we watched the first Home Alone, and we remember that more. And we sort of went on to that every single year rather than the fourth one. We sort of forgot about the fourth one. We watched it when we were kids, and we enjoyed it at the time. But yeah, the first one is a classic. But yeah, it's a very nice. Home Alone is a very nice classic. It is. One of the scenes that I remember is. Kevin pretending, I don't know if he was pretending, but Kevin was applying aftershave to his face and he was screaming. And I think that's one of the reasons why they had this as the poster. Also because of Joe Pesci's great performances in it as well. Very nice. Yeah, it's a very nice film. I really enjoyed it. So guys, thank you so much for your Instagram answers. I really appreciate them. Now we're going to be moving on to Facebook answers. So I got 3 films suggested by one person, and that's Tom Merrison. Thank you so much, Tom. Really appreciate it. This is a very nice, interesting range, and you'll see why once I read them out. My favorites are Bad Santa, because it's a movie that, even though it's alternative, it is about a character too hopeless and miserable that gains the Christmas spirit and is able to understand the true meaning of Christmas despite being so cynical and nasty. I also think Krampus is a great one for an alternative Christmas horror film. The visuals and the overall build of dread is pretty well done. It has some great monster designs, and the Christmassy feeling still remains with the settings. My favorite one growing up was Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas, because each story in that film was sweet and heartfelt and also had its humorous moments. So first, Bad Santa. Yeah, I agree. Bad Santa was a very unorthodox sort of film at the time. I watched it when I was a kid. It was a very depressing... I think some people would watch it when they were adults and probably think, this is hilarious, absolutely hilarious. But I watched it when I was younger, and I thought this was really depressing. And people can say that the film is very funny at times. It's very unorthodox because you don't really expect those sorts of protagonists in Christmas films usually. But Billy Bob Thornton plays a guy who, you know, plays as Santa, but he's also an alcoholic, a drunken, angry, vitriolic person. And he's sort of losing his hope. His hope for life is deteriorating. But then he comes across this kid, and the kid still believes in Christmas, and he constantly follows him around, and he thinks he's the real Santa. It's absolutely hilarious. But at the same time, yeah, I agree. It does. I do like the fact that this film doesn't shy away from the anger, the bitterness, and the grittiness of losing hope and just giving up on life, because the film does have a message about hope and believing in kindness and that there is always hope. And yeah, Billy Bob Thornton does a fantastic performance. But yeah, it's a very strangely heartwarming film. I'll give you that. Krampus, I'm not really familiar with the lore of Krampus, but my guess is that he's sort of the opposite of Saint Nicholas, or the shadow of Saint Nicholas, Santa, and he sort of takes kids or people away if they don't believe in Christmas. I think, I'm not sure. That's what the horror film entails. But yeah, but I checked out in the trailer and it looked really good. The effects for it looked really cool. And you said about the effects. Yeah, I saw the trailer and it looked as if they were relying on practical effects more than CGI effects, but I could be wrong. But it looks really interesting. So this film's about a dysfunctional family. And due to the dysfunctionality of everything going horribly wrong on a Christmas visit, this kid decides to turn his back on Christmas. He's crumpling his letter, throwing out the window, and then all of a sudden Krampus arrives, and then havoc ensues. I noticed that there's a pattern in Toni Collette's filmography. She likes to go for roles in dysfunctional families. For example, Little Miss Sunshine, which I mentioned in my last Faves video, Hereditary, and now Krampus. What next? I'm pretty sure there are tons out there as well, but yeah, it's really weird. She likes doing dramas though, you know, and yeah, I like Toni Collette. It also looks like a horror film that has a combination of comedy and horror. Dave Duchovny is in it, and he's sort of playing the asshole brother, and yeah, he's funny in it, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. And yeah, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas, yeah, nothing's more heartwarming than that, you know, episodic stories featuring characters that you love, or you've grown to love. What's not to like? And I also really like the fact that it is episodic, so it doesn't really have a huge major plot with these characters, otherwise it would be a lot more complicated. Yeah, it's very heartwarming. So thank you, Tom, for your answers. These are fantastic answers. So next one is going to be from Film Buffs. So Film Buffs is a Facebook group where they talk about film. Hey, Film Buffs, if you're watching this, these are going to be your answers. And yeah, here we go. So Galen K. Knowlton says, Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. The same team that wrote all the songs for this also wrote Funny Girl. great songs. Also Scrooge 1970, another excellent film with the showstopper of Thank You Very Much. Have watched both for many Christmas films. These are very classic selections, Galen. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Mr. Knowlton. Very interesting answers. I am familiar with Mr. Magoo, so I'm really interested into checking out Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. Funny Girl, wow. I'm familiar with the song Rain on Your Parade, or Rain on My Parade, I think. Yeah, Barbra Streisand. Yeah, I didn't know that the songwriters also wrote Funny Girl. I'll be looking forward to checking those two out. You know, hopefully it will be more wholesome, like the Chuck Jones cartoons. I can see that, and also Scrooge. So that's I'm guessing that's that's an adaptation of A Christmas Carol. So I'll definitely look into checking those films out. Thank you, Galen, for your answers. I really appreciate them. This one's an interesting one. This one's from Alex K. For me, it's The Long Kiss Goodnight, starring Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson. It's an action thriller set in Christmas because it was written by my fave underrated screenwriter, Shane Black. Lethal Weapon, The Last Boy Scout, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and Iron Man 3, directed by Rennie Harlin. Die Hard 2, and Cliffhanger. It's a suburban mom living with her husband and stepdaughter, and she's got amnesia. One accident later makes her remember her past life as an assassin, and all the bad guys start coming for her. I love the chemistry between Jackson and Davis. It's funny and too cool for school. Davis is awesome as the blonde-haired assassin. Love the action sequences, especially jumping out the window with an Uzi shooting down at the ice. One of the most action films of the 90s. This is how a female-led film looks and sounds like. It's fun, kind of gritty, but doesn't take itself too seriously, unlike today's grim action films featuring actresses. Wow, actually, that's a really long answer there. I really do appreciate it because I have a lot to talk about. So you mentioned about Shane Black being your underrated screenwriter. I have to say, I have watched some of his films. I watched Lethal Weapon, and that's a great buddy cop film. I've watched The Last Boy Scout, and that's a very underrated Bruce Willis film. I also I've seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Don't really remember Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I thought it was very, I don't know, I wasn't really engaged with it. I thought that I was going to like it because Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer was in it, and the trailer looked hilarious. I remember watching the trailer over and over and over again, bought the DVD. I watched it and I was like, this is way too complicated, so wasn't really into Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Iron Man 3, it was alright, you know, it had elements of The Incredibles in there, you know, not as good as Iron Man 1. And hey, I liked Iron Man 2. I liked Iron Man 2. I haven't seen The Nice Guys though. I noticed that Shane Black likes to write buddy comedies or buddy cop films because, you know, the Last Boy Scout, Nice Guys, The Long Kiss Goodnight with Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson, which I'll get to in a minute, and also Lethal Weapon. You know, all of these films, he sort of likes to go for those sorts of films, buddy cop films. I really want to see Nice Guys. I think Nice Guys is going to be really good. Hopefully that will be better than the rest of his films. I'm not saying that he's a bad writer. I'm just saying he's an okay writer. So, and directed by Rennie Harlin, Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger. Saw both of those films. Die Hard 2 is actually the first Die Hard film that I've seen. When I was a kid, I saw it. I saw Die Hard 2 when I was a kid, and then after that I saw Die Hard 1. Die Hard 1 is probably the best, and Die Hard 4 as well. I like Die Hard 4, but you know, I digress. Cliffhanger was a really good film. I saw it before with Sylvester Stallone, and I also really liked the John Lithgow. It's an underrated action film, and I would watch it like if I was like flipping through channels in the middle of the night. I would watch it to the end. I really like Cliffhanger, but it's a shame that Rennie Harlin doesn't really make anything good nowadays. Like, you know, Legend of Hercules. Back to Long Kiss Goodnight. Yeah, I really like the relationship between Samuel L. Jackson and Gina Davis. I do remember, I have seen it once. It's been a long time since I've seen that film. I do remember Gina Davis's daughter when she is scared and she says to her, "Mommy, are we gonna die?" And she says, "No, they are." Yeah, and I noticed that you guys were typing that in the comments that you liked that line, and you also, yeah, a lot of you guys were starting a thread of the most hilarious quotes in the film. Yeah, it's a very over-the-top action film. Yeah, so thank you for your answer, Alex K. It's making me want to check out Long Kiss Goodnight again. It's been a really long time since I've seen that film, and also it makes me want to check out The Nice Guys as well. And so the next one comes from Johnny Mockney. So he says, one of my favorites is Christmas Evil. It's an interesting psychological thriller that kind of plays out like if Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver was dressed as Santa Claus. There are some experimental filmmaking choices, and a beautiful Christmas time aesthetic to the whole movie. It could have easily been a typical Hollywood slasher movie, but the attention to character really made it something more. Yeah, I do agree that when I was checking the film out on its trailer, it was like Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. It also reminded me of the Joker. I wasn't expecting horror film suggestions, but yeah, it's a very yeah. But I do agree, it's a very weird, unorthodox sort of Christmas film, as is Bad Santa and Krampus. But you know, when I was checking out the trailer for Christmas Evil, it sort of reminded me of Joker, a man's mental health deteriorating and deciding to snap and dressing up as a sort of a figure that people sort of love, Santa Claus. So yeah, it's very interesting to have a man dress up as Santa Claus going on a killer spree with an axe. I do remember that there's a scene in the trailer where a kid has a knife and the police officers are telling her to give it to them, but then all of a sudden the killer, the maniac dressed up as Santa Claus, asks the kid to give it to him, and the kid just trusts him because he's dressed up as her favorite icon, so she just gives her the knife. Absolute genius. Also, what makes me laugh for some reason is I was checking the film out on Amazon Prime, and the film only had like 1 star because one person gave it a review, and it just read, "Wasn't the plot I was expecting." I mean, what were you expecting, to be honest? Don't know why that's so funny. And that is it for Film Buffs. Thank you guys so much. And last but not least, we're going to go to YouTube comments. Hopefully I'll read it just in time before my phone dies. So, Animation Commendation, he writes, any adaptation of A Christmas Carol, basically because it's just a good story worth telling. Some faves of mine include the Alastair Sim version, the Albert Finney version, the Kelsey Grammer version, and the animated version with Tim Curry as Scrooge. I also enjoy Arthur's Perfect Christmas each year. So yeah, you're a real fan of the Christmas Carol stories. I remember seeing the one starring Patrick Stewart. That was a very old one that I saw at school. I would say that I haven't really watched the ones that you've mentioned, Animation Commendation, but I do remember the one with Jim Carrey as well. Another Jim Carrey Christmas film. He played Ebenezer Scrooge. That film was very interesting, the way that they incorporated motion capture to the film. It was very creepy, but yeah, it had a very creepy aesthetic, and it also had creepy elements to the story, as expected in A Christmas Carol story. Jim Carrey does a great performance as Ebenezer Scrooge, very unexpected. And yeah, I definitely recommend the Jim Carrey version of A Christmas Carol. But since you really love any adaptation of any Christmas Carol story, then yeah, you're pretty much already checked that out. I'll be sure to check out those other adaptations, especially the animated version with Tim Curry as Scrooge. That could be really interesting to see because, you know, Tim Curry. And you mentioned Arthur's Perfect Christmas. Oh my God, that takes me back to my childhood. So that's it, guys. Those are all of your answers. I really appreciate them. Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that I got more answers than my last Faves video. And I really hope that you enjoyed submitting your answers. And I hope that my response to your answers were worth listening to. But yeah, I hope you guys have really enjoyed this video, you know, and you've sort of come to a time where things were easier, things were simpler, and you were just watching Christmas films and you were remembering which ones were your favorite, why, what did you admire about them, and me just sharing my insight on your film tastes. So if you guys want to be in the next Faves video, the next question is going to be, what films are you looking forward to see in the next year? If films are going to be released next year, I don't know. It's a mystery. Follow me on my Instagram, my Facebook. That's all where the fun happens. All social media links will be down below. Keep an eye out on where I ask those questions and you can submit them. Or you can just stick them down in the comments and answer the question right there. And I'll be sure to put you in the next edition of Fave. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to see more and be updated for more film-related content. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. That is it. Stay tuned. I've got some videos coming for you soon. The Hull of a Boss video is still underway, probably before January. So yeah, that would be a very interesting show to delve into. And lots more videos coming soon, as well as the other Faves video. Hope you guys are having a great Christmas with your loved ones. And if you're not celebrating, happy holidays. And until next time, guys, have a great holiday.